Welcome to another edition of The Police and You. In studio, I've got with me, without further ado, let me say a very good night and welcome all the way from Regional Division 8. He is the commander of that division, Senior Superintendent, Kingston. Good night and welcome.
Good night, Stan. Good night, and thank you for having me on this Police and You program.
Long overdue.
Well, nothing happens before a time.
Definitely. All right. Come closer to the microphone. It's all right. Yes. All right. So, the Police and You, for those of you who are now joining us, is your regular every Tuesday program. Where, of course, we give you a chance to be able to have a discussion with those commanders or those department heads who are on the program to be able to get feedback also and have your questions answered if necessary or if needs be. And I'll tell you what, we're dealing with the Regional Division 8, which is and let me see if I get it right, Commander. This is Pataro Siparuni. So anything that is related to Pataro Siparuni, feel free. You can give us a call on 226-4762. That's 226-4762 as we have this conversation. You can also send your questions, if you do have any, pertaining to that regional division, to WhatsApp number. Yeah, you could send it to the WhatsApp number would be 6320147. That's 6320147. You could send your messages there. As a matter of fact, we are also live on Facebook and YouTube at the Ghana Police Force. So you can follow the conversation right there and be able to be a part of it if it is that you are out of range of our radio, which is 102.5 FM. But we do encourage you, tell a friend, tell a neighbor, and let them join in because the Police and You is on right now. And as I turn the attention over to Commander Kingston, evidently many of us coastlanders are unaware of where this region is located. If you can share with us the geographical space that your region takes up.
All right, Stan. Region 8 basically is the Pataro Siparuni. Region 8, it borders the region of Region 7, which is the Cayuni Mazaruni. To the north, the regions of Upper Demerara, Berbice, and East Berbice Quarantine to the east, the region of Upper Takatu, Upper Essequibo to the south, and Brazil to the west. Region 8 has a population slightly close to 12,000. It enjoys a space of 7,820 kilometers. So
7,000, that's pretty huge.
Yes.
And what is the terrain like there?
Well, it has two districts. You got sub-district 1 and sub-district 2. Sub-district 2 is Madia of itself, and sub-district 1 is the North Pacaraimos. That is a lot of hills and valleys, mountainous areas.
I was beginning to think that you were going to burst out in reggae singing there about hills and valleys there for us, right? But nevertheless, and indeed, we've had the privilege as the communications unit to visit with you in that region, and we've also seen that you've got a variety of paths to be able to then get to other regions. I know there's this one bridge that crosses that river. I can't remember the name right now, which you remember.
The Denham Bridge.
The Denham, yes, that's correct. Which is a main conduit in that area. but you have other means for persons to actually get in and out.
The Denham Bridge spans the Potaro River, and by using that bridge, it could take you into the Bartica District, Station District. As I would have said earlier, we do share borders with Region 7, Cayuni Mazruni, which is the Bartica is the headquarters. We also share areas with Letem, Region 9. Prior to the regionalization of the force, Region 9 used to control all the stations on the north, within the North Pacaramas, which is Kato, Monkey Mountain, and Oranduk.
Okay. Does this make policing in that region difficult?
Well, I won't say difficult to know, Stan. Region 8 has its own peculiarities in the way in which we police that region. We access the station over the mountain by way of aircraft. However, it can be accessed via Region 9 through Karasabai, but that journey will take a bit longer than aircraft.
All right. You did mention, obviously, the Potaro River. Do you find that many persons would use that via boat?
Yes, they do use the Potaro River by boat. Mostly miners, persons going up into the Potaro River, because from going up to the Potaro River, you got access areas like Ichirak and so on. So those are mining areas. So the Potaro River is being used to access mostly mining areas.
All right. So, considering now your terrain, what would you say are some of the challenges that you and your policemen in that region face, particularly when you look as it relates to things like transportation, things like communication?
Well, Stan, as I said earlier, Region 8 is a special region. As it relates to communication, once you don't have bad weather, you stand a good chance of getting good communication via the VHF set. But once there is bad weather, it is out. There are a few villages in the North Pakarama that has internet system, but still yet, once you experiencing very difficult and bad weather, then that is what will put you on the back burner. Some of the challenges because of the distance some of the villages is from the police. They take some time, 2 to 3 hours to report a matter, because most of the persons sometimes come by foot. They walk this distance. But with the intervention of the force administration recently, I was able to acquire 2 new ATV motorcycles, which now put me in a better position to equip all 3 of the stations over the mountain with an ATV each. I have already given clear instructions that ranks should go into the villages within their station district. Let us patrol the areas and let us reach residents, speak with them, and acquire information. So if any matter occur and the police is there patrolling, then they would be in a position to take the report and deal with it almost immediately.
All right. Now, I guess to maybe give persons a little idea, when you say like it takes 2-3 hours, the hub and the headquarters of most of the operations is located at Madia.
Yes, the headquarters is at Madia, but as I earlier explained, we have 3 stations in the North Pakarama. We have Monkey Mountain, Kato, and Oranduk. So persons over the mountain will have access to these stations. So some villages are pretty far away, villages like Itabak, Kanapang, and so forth. These people will take a little while before they reach to either K2 or Orinduk.
And when you talk about 3 hours, you're talking on foot.
Yeah, sometimes they'll be on foot, or if they happens to hitch a ride on somebody's ATV, it could take them probably half an hour to an hour or 2 hours.
So, would that be something that would hamper effective policing, would you say? When you look at, for example, if it is that, God forbid, a crime happens at an area, as you mentioned, it takes someone about 2 to 3 hours to get to a police station to make a report.
Yeah, it depends on the distance or where they're coming from. It will take some time for them to get there, and then we will have to react almost immediately. And it will probably take us, if not the same, it won't take us the same amount of time to get there, but just around, it may be just be an hour or half an hour short of that time. So time span got a lot to do with when we receive the report, and we will react, because I always try to ensure that with those ATVs there, we have adequate fuel at all material times so the ranks could react to any such report. But then you also have to look at the terrain, because sometimes you do have the ATV, but then if you have continuous rainfalls, this ATV still has to climb these mountains to get to the area, and that could be a challenge at times. Notwithstanding the fact you have an all-terrain vehicle, good tires, everything, it still sometimes could present a challenge if there is heavy rainfall in the north.
And from some of the things, from some of what we've indicated, particularly this year too, we've been having a lot of rainfall, would you say?
Yeah.
So this year, would you say, has been very challenging in terms of moving around?
It has been challenging, but we are trying to brave the weather. Yes, there is an issue of climate change, not only in Guyana, but across the entire region. So we still have to do policing. So we still have to brave it at times and make the best of every bad situation and get to where we have to go in order to provide service to the people.
21 hours 17. This is Police and You, coming to you live on Voice of Ghana's 102.5 FM on the program tonight. We've got the commander of Regional Division 8, which is Pataro Siparuni, none other than Senior Superintendent Kingston, who is sharing with us about his region. Commander, I want to turn our attention now to, evidently, as an update, recently, the Commissioner of Police would have mentioned countrywide statistics as it relates to comparative analysis between last year and this year, what crime has been like, but that was countrywide. If we to now zone into your region and be able to share with us, and particularly serious crimes, what would you say your statistics are like?
Well, Stan, my statistics as it relates to serious crime is up. But my crime is only up because of one specific offense, and that is rape. That is the only offense that has caused my figure to be up. When it comes to murder, robberies of all categories, I am down. So the only figure, break and enter and so forth, I am down. But the only figure that has Region 8 crime figures showing an increase is rape. We have had a total of close, I think, 19 reports of rape compared to probably like 6 or 7 for last year. So we have had an increase in rape. I have recognized that increase. I have taken some steps to deal with these issues. I have reached out to Child Care Protection Agency, Child Link, Blossom Inc., and I have been in those organizations. And there is a planned agenda for us to go out and meet persons in the various villages, especially over the north. However, I have seen recently an ad. There was an ad recently where Blossom Inc., I think, they were advertising for persons to be employed, and they were asking for persons from within that region. They were giving preference to the persons from within that region, 8 regions, to come on board to be employed in order for us to have their assistance in reaching to victims of sexual violence. So it is a work in progress. We are working assiduously to ensuring that this kind of crime that affects the community, especially over the mountain and teenage pregnancy, is being dealt with, and being dealt with very rigidly.
I think, in all fairness to you and your region, we would have heard about this kind of collaboration, and you would have reported to us would have been taking place with Child Link and Child Care Protection since around the month of April, May, when they first had formal meets with you guys and were working out a plan. As it relates to that issue of rape, have you been able to, whether singularly as the police or collectively as that collaboration, being able to identify what are some of the root causes of this particular offense?
Well, it has to do with the culture of the persons within that region. And that is why I have sought the assistance of these various bodies, because I believe that education, if the residents are being educated of it and they've been advised that sticking to this kind of culture no longer exists, we have to move away from this cultural behavior, then I believe we could this whole situation could bear fruit.
But when you talk about culture, evidently culture speaks to something that would be an acceptable norm to a group of people. Is that therefore making reports of such acts harder for you to come by?
I don't think so, Stan. The basic fact that these matters are being reported, I don't believe, and it is my strong view that the matters are being reported. And the basic fact that matters are being reported to the police and we are taking the necessary action, it's just that sometime by the time the report gets to the police, the perpetrator moves from one area to the other. And that of itself is a challenge in us getting the perpetrators.
All right.
We were able to get some of the perpetrators, and we weren't able to get some. But we continue to pursue them. And it is not easy that you could issue a wanted bulletin for them, because they are in the interior region. Getting access to photograph of some of the suspects is not that easy.
All right. Well, that was one of the serious crimes that you did mention, and that's the one that you did mention is up. But you did highlight earlier that the other serious crimes there down. You care to elaborate on those serious crimes?
Well, as it relates to murder, I think I only have 2 murders for this year as compared to like 4 last year. Robbery, I think I am breaking even one last year as against 1 this year. Break and enter and larceny, I'm also down in that area. Simple larceny from the person, I don't have any such report.
All right. 23. Let's turn our attention now, Commander, to evidently it's been more than a year of us being in the COVID times. And this has brought on a new aspect of policing. And the whole COVID enforcement that has to happen. What would you say is happening in your region as it relates to the police doing to help fighting against COVID-19?
Well, the guidelines set out by the government in the gazetted orders, Yes, we do have challenges with person wearing their face mask. We do have challenges as it relates to persons who is of the view that there is no such thing as COVID. We still having challenges, persons of the view that they should be using, they have their own remedy to deal with the question of COVID. But we are very firm in our decision. We started off by educating persons. We did share masks. We did go out and talk to people in the community, and we are enforcing.
Enforcing.
Yes, we are enforcing.
How effective would you say is that right now?
Well, it is very effective. However, you do in every area you do have some bit of challenges because most of the times we keep court in every quarter. Court is being kept in Madia, and in that case, when sometimes you put persons on bail, you doesn't see them back. Because most of the time, you see, Mad is a mining district. So most of the times, when you look at the question of arresting, when you arrest persons and they're being placed on bail, they don't return for court. Then you look at the question of persons violating COVID guidelines of not wearing masks and so forth over the mountain. When you look at the cost to bring somebody from over the mountain to Madi to pass through court.
For the kind of fines that...
For the kind of fines that they will pay. It really doesn't add up. And therefore, we have to constantly and continue to educate persons, especially in the North Pacaraimans. We continue to educate them. We continue to share masks and plead with them to have it done. Because it wouldn't work out. It would not work out financially. Reported, we do investigate and we do solve. As it relates to the murder, we were able to solve 2 of them. One was charged with manslaughter and then we had one with murder. We just have one unsolved.
One unsolved,
yeah,
right?
We have a manslaughter and then one murder.
All right.
And this murder is basically of disorderly type, where persons drink alcohol and killing their partner.
Mostly domestic.
One is domestic, and the one as relates to domestic, the female was eventually charged with manslaughter, and the other one where the fella killed his partner, he was charged with murder.
Okay. And that matters before the court right now?
Those matters are before the court.
As it relates to going back to the issue of COVID and understanding that, and it's something I ask all commanders when they hear that they grapple with. It's been more than a year that we've been in a lockdown, and people, various reasons, it's, like one of the monikers that is, I want party or we outside. So when you talk about following the gazetted orders of closing businesses and being in your homes at a certain time, people are wanting to be defiant. Do you find some of those happening, particularly like in the township?
Yeah, well, we have been very rigid in that regards. At 9:30, all business places have to be closed. But what we find that when we close off in the township at 9:30, persons go into backdam areas to sport. And that is another challenge. But once we get that information that this is going on, then we venture to those near sighted backdam and we arrest and prosecute.
But kind of like, speak to the legality of going into the back dams, which would then be considered like, in some cases, I'm sure people might want to challenge and say, well, this is could be considered my home. They say back dam is where they live. No, I'm just so speak to that and explain to persons.
No. All is in the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, and therefore they have to comply with what is in the gazetted orders. It has nothing to do with they are in the back dam or whether they are on the landing or wherever. They still have to comply with those regulations by closing. Of course, some of the back dams are far very long distance, and if we're to ride and get to those areas, sometimes you reach there within 3 hours or so.
By the time the party done.
Yes, everything is over. But for near areas where we could access within a 30 minutes or within an hour, we do go to those areas to ensure that there's compliance.
That then, of course, makes me want to ask if you would you say that you are at a strength in terms of ranks that you've got within the region that is comfortable to work?
Well, what I am working with. I know there's room for improvement. I have been in discussion with the administration. Recently, there was some signing of some contracts where there would be rehabilitation to buildings within my region, for which I'm thankful for. Our Barkroom at Mahdi police station would be enhanced. The police station of itself is being rebuilt under the CSSP program. Kato police station, there are also a contract there for the expansion of that station because when that station is being expanded, I already have plans in place. It will include the female quarters, and I'm looking forward to have at least 2 females over in that area, including a detective who will be doing some roving patrols along the borderline and at the various villages. So response time for persons reporting sexual related matters going to be dealt with ASAP. Other than having to wait for a female to fly from Mahdia to the area, we'll be able to deal with that.
All right. And tell us now, you talked about what is coming up, but in terms of what presently is there, what would you say in terms of given the location of where you are, how your ranks currently fare as it relates to how they are accommodated in your region?
Well,
especially the females.
Well, the females, they do have some accommodation, but we could always do with something more. But what we have presently, we are not 100% comfortable, but we are comfortable. And taking into the fact that we see that efforts are being made to improve the living conditions, that is, commendable. There is an effort. We see it is there, and we are working, and everybody is comfortable at the moment. But we are looking forward to have these repairs and this expansion done speedily. And we understand the situation because it is not as easy as you may think. Because I'm sure the contractors will also have their own difficulties, especially in getting materials and so forth to these locations.
And as you talk about materials, I believe it was in the month of April that we, the unit, the corporate communications unit, would have paid a visit to your region. And they were coming to the end of building the new headquarters for your regional division, which is a modern headquarters as they're putting down right across the country. What would you report as from then to now? What is the state of that?
Well, that headquarters has been completed. We are in the process of furnishing, and then we will be occupying. We'll have, by then, our living quarters should be completed, and then we have a full strength of ranks.
Okay, you care to share what publicly you might be able to tell us the headquarters will be able to house?
Well, the headquarters will be housing a number of units that have an OPR, It have the domestic violence. We have areas for domestic violence, deal with child abuse. It have identification parade rooms, interviewing rooms. It houses in the financial department, the CID, court superintendents. Of course, there's offices for the commander, the deputy commander, a registry, a IT unit, operations room, intelligence, and so forth.
Awesome. Awesome. And obviously, given what it has and the fact that you're into furnishings, that sounds like you will require a whole lot of human resources to be able to man that new headquarters.
Yeah, well, once we have the facility, I am positive that the administration there would be a shift of persons to that area. So I have no doubt in my mind that once we have everything in place, I will see an increase of ranks in that area.
Awesome. You talked about being on the border, and your colleague commander from Region 7 would have intimated, obviously, having skirmishes ever so often with persons from other countries. I believe the term that they use would be garimperos, who sometimes seek to trouble Guyanese. As it relates to your region and Guyana closer to the border, do you have any? Our citizens are ever at risk or threat of those?
No, I don't have that kind of issue. What is one of my concern is that because of our closeness with Brazil, we do have persons, both Guyanese who has dual citizenship, that traverse over to Brazil, because the area where some of them is living it is more profitable for them to acquire foodstuff from Brazil than to bring it all the way from Madia. And that is the only one of the concern I have as it relates to the COVID.
That they would just go.
Yeah, within the whole movements of goods and services, they could easily pick up COVID and bring it over to Guyana.
Well, as it relates to that, methods to be able to transport people as cargo in some cases, or even use different unusual routes. Have you had for the year any such reports or situations within your region?
No, I have not had any of that situation in my region. Most of the times you would have heard persons heading mostly to the Region 9 area and so on. So I don't leave any room. I'm not leaving any room open for any safe haven of any criminal elements.
So basically, let them know that they're not welcome.
No, criminals are not welcome in Region 8, boss. Yeah, of course, and I want to make it quite clear that Region 8 will not be a safe haven for any criminals. The record speaks for itself. Since I've become the commander for Region 8, I have turned over a few criminals, persons who are fugitive from justice for a number of years. I have turned them over to Georgetown, and they are now sitting comfortably in prison, waiting their day in court.
And let's talk about that and elaborate a little bit more, because indeed, as you are aware, and particularly from the coast and some of the other regions where access is far more easier, you find lots of times people, they commit offenses and then they decide to run to the hinterland, where, as we all know, they figure that they can hide.
Well, they're not safe in Region 8. Let me make it clear, they're not safe in Region 8. Night, I will also visit them by night like Nicodemus. So they're not safe in Region 8, Stan. There's a,
in 10 and 7, you've got collaboration that
yes, there is
happens.
collaboration efforts. We have a checkpoint at 83 miles. The checkpoint was originally set up in the COVID time, and it is there until now. There's efforts to have a police outpost built at Kanarook Junction, and there is an issue that when I went to the region, I observed it wasn't being done. It's something I knew of back in the past. Is where the minibus, they are required to submit a list of their passengers that comes in. I have reintroduced that, and we continue to.
So that you know who is coming
Yeah,
into.
we know who is coming, and we also there also has a requirement to stop at Mabura and check with the police outpost. But just in case there are persons who would have beat that checkpoint, and when I say beat, they would have eluded by using some other road or track. We still find a way to get in contact with them by having a constant patrol to the crossing.
All right. Now, it's interesting to know, evidently, what kind of collaboration. I know standard across the country, there's pretty good relationships that police would have with medical or EMT personnel as it relates to being on a crime scene in the case where persons need medical help, that being given to them as soon as possible, any victim. How is that relationship in your region?
Well, we have a good relationship with the hospital, the staff at the hospital, doctors, because in the event that a report, somebody goes directly to the hospital with injuries, once the staff at the hospital realize that this is an issue for the police, we are being alerted. Especially in sexual matters, there are persons, there are teenagers who goes there pregnant, we are being informed almost immediately. Persons go to the hospital with injuries, we are being informed immediately. We have that kind of relationship.
All right, awesome. 21 hours 45 on the police and you. We are here with Commander Senior Superintendent Kingston, who is the commander of Regional Division 8. Commander, not to blow your trumpet, but if you can candidly say, how would you say that the people of Region 8 view the police? What is the relationship you have with them?
We have a good relationship with members of the public. Well, and not everybody will like the police, because persons who are bent on wrongdoing obviously will not like the police. But I maintain one posture in that, and I preach to my ranks that professionalism is the key. At all stages, we must be professional with members of the public. We must at all times listen to everyone's side. It is not who come to the police force is right.